competition. The basis of the difference between men and women is the facts related to sex or reproduction. Women ovulate once a month. The female egg is the largest of the human cells. A woman has a limited number of these large cells and they are used up. The female's productivity lasts for 33 years. A single sperm will fertilize this egg. Therefore, women are selective about fertilization or sex. They are not inclined to have sexual intercourse with every man they meet. They want to choose men who can give birth to healthy offspring and who have a high capacity for the continuation of the species. And they do. As the time for the fertilization of the egg approaches, the woman's selectivity and search for men also begin to increase. The male, on the other hand, is ready to mate at any time. His sperm is waiting ready to mate. The male's sperm is the smallest of the human cells. Unless there is a disease or accident, the male can give his sperm for a lifetime. The male's aim is to distribute his genes to as many females as possible. This both increases the chance of his own genes to exist and continue to live, and decreases the chance of the genes belonging to other men to survive. For this reason, men are not selective about sex. They want to have sexual intercourse with every woman who comes along and gives them the opportunity. Since men do not have the responsibility of raising babies, they devote their lives to distributing their genes as much as possible. Women, on the other hand, instinctively devote their lives to finding the most suitable genes for themselves. In a society, women decide who will mate with whom. Men, on the other hand, do not complain about this situation very much, as long as they find women to mate with. In fact, during the historical process, men have begun to know how to please females or how to attract them since the times of primitive organisms, and each species has found its own methods and developed methods. However, what is written here does not mean that men do not desire any woman in particular. There is also someone or someone among other women that men want to mate with the most. This desire is actually caused by genes. Mating preference, that is, desire, is the preference of genes that are different from each other to genes that are similar. The historical development of living beings has been such that, instead of reproducing by copying, genes from two different sources have combined, eliminated each other's mistakes as much as possible, and gained diversity. In nature, reproduction by copying was initially attempted. However, this method failed because it was a weak and repetitive system. Instead, the male-female model has been more consistent and has contributed to the development of evolution. The combination of chromosomes from the egg and sperm is also a repair process. For this reason, the more different the DNAs from two different sources are, the greater the chance of repair, correction, renewal, and diversification. This is why difference lies at the basis of desire. A person feels this difference with all of their organs. However, the basic sensory organ of appreciation and desire is smell. While smell is being processed, the body has compared the genes of the opposite sex with its own genes and perceived their differences. This plays the most important role in the feeling of desire. Until the pre-war era of the hunter-gatherer era, there was no regulated dominance between men and women within the family. While men were hunting, women were gathering, healing, childcare, and camping. There was also no significant difference between men and women in terms of means of production. Therefore, it would not be wrong to talk about equality between men and women in hunter-gatherer tribes until the age of wars. After the beginning of the wars, as men's means of production developed, a slight male dominance began to emerge within the tribes. However, this was too faint a situation to be called a patriarchal family. Perhaps it would be more accurate to say that men were first among equals. In tribes that transitioned from the hunting and gathering era to a settled life, women came to the forefront as a requirement of the settled life and farming. During this time, the encounters between settled and hunter-gatherer tribes were still peaceful encounters and mixing. For this reason, the women of the settled life, who were one step ahead, and the men of the hunter-gatherer tribe, who were one step ahead, met. Things seemed to even out again for a short while. All of this above-mentioned subject will be returned to in more detail later. What needs to be said here is that in the first settlements, women were respected a little more than men. This phenomenon occurred at different times in different regions. For Anatolia, we can say that this change is more than 12,000 years old. After a while, the family where women were respected more would be transformed into a patriarchal family. As men acquired the means of production, they would strengthen their place within the family. The issue of ownership of the means of production would, on the one hand, lead to the division of society into classes, and on the other hand, it would change the structure of the family. Of course, changes within the family did not occur all of a sudden. It occurred over time, with intermediary tones. The transition to a patriarchal family occurred at different times in different societies, depending on the mode of production. In addition, the mode of production determined which family type would remain in circulation for how long. As we approach our time in history, as communication, and therefore interaction between societies increases, family structures will also begin to change due to external factors. We have seen that the factor that makes Homo sapiens, is imagination. However, it should be noted that a much older situation that directs our behavior and thoughts is instinct. Instinct has begun to develop since primitive creatures, and as living organisms have developed, instinct has also developed. The basic manifestation of instinct emerges as competition. Competition in finding food, competition in mating are essential for living individually and continuing the species. Our first ancestors lived in small communities in the African savannas. Competition was necessary to be able to eat better even in this small community and to ensure the continuation of genes. Its necessity increased as time went by. Competition in social life contributed to the progress of society. The winners were respected, and the losers tried again and again under the influence of the competitive instinct. Winning and losing cause serious changes in human chemistry. Thus, competition is also established on a physical basis. When you win, a pleasant feeling emerges in the brain. The spinal nervous system is activated under the influence of the brain. The hormones secreted make every behavior, from our posture to our gaze, affect those around us. The self-confidence of the winning creature increases. Joy and hope are gained with the feeling of winning. The person begins to spread positive energy to his or her surroundings. This flood of emotions is perceived by those around him or her. The people around him or her feel the person's power and respect it. When you lose, a sad, abstractly painful feeling emerges in the deepest parts of the brain. The hormones secreted when you lose are different from those secreted when you win. If the loss is very important, the information is genetically coded and processed. Thus, the duty of warning future generations is fulfilled. It is obvious that competition is very important in our social life and that it leads to hierarchy. Competition determines the place in society on the one hand, and on the other hand, it makes the current status changeable. It removes life from being a destiny. The existence of instinct and imagination together in man has been the most important factor that prepares him for the future and changes his destiny.